Every empire in history, without exception, did not collapse because of outside enemies. It collapsed because someone stopped governing from within. Right now, that same thing is happening inside your finances, and most people will spend their entire lives never understanding why. You work, you earn, you pay your bills on time. You're not reckless, you're not irresponsible. But at the end of every month, something quietly doesn't add up. The money moves, things get covered, and yet the ground never feels completely solid. That low hum of financial anxiety that never fully goes away, it isn't a sign that you need to earn more. It's a signal that something in the way you govern your money has never actually been taught to you. Most personal finance advice tells you to save more, spend less, invest early. And those things matter, but they're tactics. What you actually need is a framework, a governing structure, the kind that separates households that build unshakable stability from those that spend decades working hard and still feel one unexpected event away from disaster. There are 5 laws, and by the time you understand all 5, the way you see money management will have permanently shifted. Here's the thing most financial advice never says directly. The problem isn't that middle-class families don't manage their money. The problem is that they manage it like a household, when it should be governed like a kingdom. A household reacts, a kingdom has laws. A household manages crises, a kingdom prevents them. A household saves whatever's left at the end of the month. A kingdom protects its treasury first. This isn't a metaphor for motivation. It's a structural reality. And every month you operate without these laws, invisible forces are quietly eroding exactly what you've worked to build. Law 1: protect the treasury first. No empire in history built its military before securing its food supply. The treasury came first, because without it, every other decision eventually falls apart. In personal finance terms, the treasury isn't what you invest. It's not what you own. The treasury is your liquidity, the money that sits still, protected, untouchable, waiting. Most people call this an emergency fund. That's thinking too small. An emperor doesn't build a reserve for emergencies. He builds it so that emergencies never become crises. 3 to 6 months of core living expenses, not in an account you can easily access on impulse, in an account that requires a deliberate decision to reach. Without this in place, every market dip, every unexpected medical bill, every career disruption forces you to react, to sell something, borrow something, liquidate something at exactly the wrong time. The cost of that timing isn't always visible immediately, but compounded over years, it is devastating to wealth building. The emperor who has no treasury doesn't lose because of bad decisions. He loses because when the moment arrives, he has no room to choose. Law 2: defend your borders. Every empire that eventually fell had one thing in common. It stopped defining what it would and would not allow inside its territory. Your financial borders are your fixed commitments, the spending that has permanent, automatic permission to exist every month. The problem is that borders in personal finance expand silently. A new subscription, a slightly more expensive lease, a habit that became invisible because you've had it long enough. Each one individually looks manageable. Together, they quietly consume the margin you need to actually build with. Here is the governing law: your fixed monthly commitments, housing, insurance, subscriptions, car payments, every automatic outflow should not exceed 60% of your take-home income, not 65, 60. If they do, you aren't governing your money. You're administering debt's permission to live in your house. Every percentage point above that threshold is territory you've surrendered. Getting it back requires a campaign, not a budgeting app. Now here's something almost no one talks about in personal finance, and it's worth stopping completely for a moment. Roman emperors, when they needed more money, sometimes did something far more subtle than raising taxes. They reduced the silver content in their coins, slowly, quietly, over years. The coins looked identical, they spent the same way, but they were worth less. This is called debasement, and it hollowed out the most powerful economy in the ancient world, not in months but across generations. People didn't notice until prices were rising, trust had collapsed, and the structure that held everything together had already been quietly destroyed. Inflation in your personal finances works with the same precision. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with a warning. It operates silently, reducing the real value of every dollar you've saved every month you wait to address it. The household keeping all its reserves in a savings account earning less than inflation isn't being cautious. It's watching its treasury be debased, legally, invisibly, and without a single dramatic moment to point to. The wise emperor doesn't react with panic. He doesn't speculate. He simply moves with the quiet intention of someone who governs for decades, not for the comfort of this particular month. Law 3. Manage your alliances. Empires didn't endure through conquest alone. The most stable ones grew through alliances, relationships that created income, resilience, and protection without constant war. Your income streams are your alliances. One employer, one paycheck, that is not a kingdom, that is a settlement, and settlements are profoundly vulnerable. The financial emperor doesn't pursue a second income out of ambition. He pursues it out of structural intelligence. Something small, sustainable, aligned to existing skills, a freelance arrangement, a modest rental, a dividend-building position in a low-cost index fund. Anything that doesn't require his constant personal attention to generate value. The goal isn't to be everywhere. The goal is to ensure that no single event, no layoff, no health interruption, no market shift can threaten the entire structure you've spent years building. One income source is a single road into your city. The empire with 5 roads doesn't starve when one closes. Law 4. Tax the noise. Every emperor who lasted understood something critical. Not every conflict deserved a response. Wars have costs. Resources are finite. The discipline to not engage, to let small provocations pass, is what preserved the treasury for battles that actually mattered. In money management terms, this is the hardest law to practice. Not every financial moment deserves your emotional energy. The market dropped 3%, your neighbor bought a new car, there's a sale on something you've been watching. A headline is warning about an imminent financial disaster. These are provocations, designed deliberately or not to trigger a reaction, to move you, to make you spend or sell or shift at exactly the wrong moment. The emperor taxes the noise, he acknowledges it, he files it, he does not act on it. Financial decisions made from emotional reactivity cost the average household tens of thousands of dollars over a decade. Not in single catastrophic moments, but in the accumulated weight of 1,000 small, unnecessary reactions. Here is what no one wants to say out loud about personal finance. The household that never adopts these laws doesn't fail dramatically. There's no crash, no single moment where everything collapses. What happens is quieter and more devastating. The margin never grows, the options never expand, every decade looks essentially like the previous one. The work gets harder, the expenses get louder, and somewhere in their 50s there is a reckoning. The territory was never really governed. It was just inhabited. That is the most common financial outcome in the middle class. Not ruin, stagnation dressed in the clothes of a normal life. And that is the hardest prison to leave, because nothing about it looks like an emergency. The 5th law is the one that changes the architecture of everything else. Law 5. Govern for your dynasty, not your decade. Every short-lived empire governed for the present moment. Every enduring one governed for the generation that wasn't born yet. The financial emperor doesn't build a plan that looks good by the end of the quarter. He builds one that his children will be able to use as a foundation, not inherit as a burden. This means decisions about estate basics that most people avoid because they feel distant. Beneficiaries updated on every account, a will in place, life insurance sized not for personal comfort but for family continuity. It means having actual conversations about money with the people you share a financial life with, the conversations that most middle-class families never have because no one taught them that money is governed, not just spent. Most households pass down either debt or silence. The emperor passes down a system. And a system, unlike savings, unlike specific assets, is something no inflation can fully debase, no recession can liquidate, no single emergency can permanently collapse. When these 5 laws are in place, not perfectly, not all at once, but progressively, something shifts. The financial anxiety doesn't disappear entirely, but it changes texture. It transforms from the low hum of not knowing whether you're safe into the quiet clarity of someone who sees what they're building, understands why they're building it, and knows what they're protecting. That is what it means to govern your finances rather than survive them. Not wealth as a distant destination, stability as a present posture. The emperor doesn't wake up wondering if his kingdom is safe. He wakes up knowing what he's protecting, what he's expanding, and what will still be standing long after the noise of any given news cycle has faded. And here is what I want you to carry after this ends. Every empire that fell took generations to rebuild, not because the land had disappeared, but because the knowledge of how to govern it had been lost. The knowledge of how to govern your money exists. It isn't complicated. It was never reserved for the wealthy. But it has to be learned and then practiced with the quiet, consistent discipline of someone who understands they're building something that outlasts them. If personal finance, money management, and wealth protection strategies are areas you want to continue developing, subscribe and stay close. There's more to this system, and the next piece matters. You've already started thinking like an emperor. Don't stop now.